So I'm Nathan Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director at the Empire State Pride Agenda. I wanted to speak with everybody today about one of our legislative priorities that you may not be familiar with. I think everyone knows that our top legislative priority for 12 years now is transgender non-discrimination statewide. We're also advancing a bill that will prohibit the practice of conversion therapy among LGBT youth in our state. But we're also advocating for a bill that will protect our families. And so I'm here to talk to you really about two provisions of a new bill that pertain to second parent adoption and surrogacy law in New York State. So we're pushing a bill called the Child Parent Security Act. Most folks are unaware that New York is one of only 5 states where surrogacy is illegal. In fact, it's the worst law in the country because if you are to engage in a contractual arrangement with a surrogate, you could face criminal penalties in New York State. It's never been prosecuted, but that's technically the case. And yes, we will take anyone with us to Albany to lobby, including toddlers. We're not above that at all. What this means for couples that want to work with a surrogate is that they have to travel out of state to do so. Oftentimes, they're doing that in states that don't even have basic protections, basic non-discrimination ordinances. It also means that the process is even more costly, which makes it more prohibitive for folks that want to pursue. So why is this the case? Why is it only one of 5 states? You may recall from the late 1980s a case commonly called the Baby M case. It was a case in New Jersey where a woman Mary Beth Whitehead served as a traditional surrogate for a wealthy heterosexual couple from New York City. And I need to be clear, this isn't just an LGBT issue. Mary Beth Whitehead was a traditional surrogate, meaning that she was the biological mother and she was the woman who carried the baby to term. That's very, very different than what is commonly practiced now with what is called a gestational carrier, where you get an egg donor and a gestational carrier. She therefore has no biological relationship to the child. But because of our law, that's still the case from 1992. So let me tell you 2 stories briefly. This is a story of Curran and Corbin Street. They live in Albany, and they had a horrendous process with second parent adoption in New York State. Corbin, who is a trans man, is the non-biological father of their child, Riley, who's of course adorable. Curran, while she was pregnant with her own child, had to go through invasive background checks, fingerprinting, and multiple social worker visits to her home. Then after they had the child, they had to go through a process of 45 days whereby Corbin didn't have any legal authority to his child. He says that those were the most anguishing 45 days of his life because the sperm donor had more rights to the child than his own. So the bill would allow for a judge to issue a judgment of parentage in advance of the birth that would certainly dramatically improve their experience and others. This is another family from Brooklyn, George and Fareed. They wanted to have children. They wanted to have children at the same time. They worked with an agency and they identified a surrogate who lived in Colorado. And she became pregnant. They went to Colorado, I think, 5 times during the pregnancy. Afterwards, they had to go through a 16-month second parent adoption, during which time Jenny, their surrogate, and her husband had more legal authority to their children. So the bill would, for them, legalize surrogacy arrangements in New York State. It also, a lot of couples report that they would like to have an ongoing relationship with their surrogate or sometimes even with their egg donor, but because of the prohibition in New York State, it's much more difficult to do so. The bill is relatively new. It's only 1 year old, and we are pushing it as best we can. It's made some progress. It has not seen any significant vote yet. We are fortunate in that the lead sponsor in the Senate is Senator Brad Hoylman, who's openly gay, and he himself went through the process to have their daughter with a surrogate. One of the challenges in New York State is that we don't have term limits. And so one of the original proponents of the bill in 1992 that prohibited was Helene Weinstein, and frankly, she's still an assistant chair of the Judiciary Committee. So we have to do a lot more education about the differences between traditional surrogacy many years ago and gestational carrier arrangements now. And I just finally have to acknowledge that we've got some really phenomenal partners on this. Lambda Legal, Family Equality Council, and Resolve, the National Infertility Association, just to reiterate that this isn't just an LGBT bill. So, thank you so much.